Filters, as far as audio goes, can be very, very complex, but there are simple ways we can use them without having to configure much to improve our audio. Now, we don't need to do it for the desktop audio or any console audio or PC audio because this is usually very good as it is. We will typically find better use for it when we're doing any adjustments to microphones. Now, what can we do to improve our microphones? So let's start by getting into the filter menu. We'll select our microphone source with a right click and go into filters. Now, this is the window we have presented. Now, it's important to understand before we go into filters what these buttons mean. Plus and minus are adding and removing an audio source, and up and down is moving the audio filters around. In most cases, a lot of positioning doesn't matter. In the case of audio, it does matter, and I will explain it once we start adding our filters and explaining them. Now, a disclaimer, you will not be able to hear the effect of the audio filters on this tutorial because otherwise you wouldn't be able to hear me properly when I'm shifting stuff around. So test this around. It's my suggestion anyway that you have some testing done before you just decide, okay, this is what I need. Voices are different, so audio settings are going to be different. There is no perfect way to set it up. There are good practices, there are best practices, but there is no specific way you should set it up just because a rule says so. So let's start by explaining what we have when we add sources. Some of these you won't have. Actually, the only one you shouldn't have is this dedicated NDI output, which we will get into later when we touch on NDI. We have a compressor, which essentially compresses the dynamic range. So if we have, say, the range of a voice is from 1 to 10, then the compressor will limit that to target specific sounds only. This is a very crude way of explaining it, but keep it in mind in that way. An expander does the exact opposite of a compressor, so it expands the dynamic range. A gain boosts our gain, so we get more volume. So if our mic is low, we can push the gain up. Polarity inversion is a very advanced technique. We can find that in mixers, and it's used mostly when we have multiple microphones which are cancelling each other out, where we have phase cancellation. That's very technical. We probably won't need that in any home setups. I've not encountered a need for it even in professional setups, but I'm sure some people would find use for it. But we'll leave that for now. We're not going to touch on polarity inversion for now. We have a limiter, which limits our output. We have the noise gate, which only picks up sounds from a threshold upwards. We have noise suppression, which will actually remove sounds below a threshold. And VST plugins we'll be getting into in the advanced techniques. VST plugins expand our possibilities pretty much infinitely, and that needs some time on its own. Let's have a look at some of the filters now. So if I go into the compressor, I'll leave the name as is. I don't need to change it. If you want to change it, sure. And as you can see, we have a number of options. I wouldn't touch many of these to begin with. I would check threshold first to see where I want to compress, and the rest I will leave as is. They require some more advanced understanding of what you're doing, so if you're not sure of what you're doing, keep it at threshold for now. We can also check the expander out, which is pretty much the exact same, but we have either a gate or an expander preset. Play around with these. I don't personally use an expander. I don't feel the need for it. Gain is very simple. If you see it, it's only 1 bar, so I can just boost. And as you can see, you can actually see the gain changing. So the gain at this level, minus 30 dB, is reducing my microphone audio by minus 30 dB. If I bring it back up, you can see the bars going up, so we're back at 0. And this is how it normally is. If I push it up 30 plus, we get into the red. So you can actually see the changes happening. I would monitor audio. If you don't know how to monitor audio, please check the previous video. and you'll see how. And you'll be able to hear yourself and adjust as you go. We also have our limiter. We'll switch the polarity inversion, which is just on or off. We'll skip this. We have our noise gate, which again is pretty simple. Don't touch the times if you don't have any understanding of how these times will affect. Closed threshold and open threshold for the gate means that if this here is at minus 32 dB, it will just cut the audio off. And usually you'd be able to see, so I'll turn it off, and you'll see if I stay in a bit of silence, you'll see the little sounds picking up at around minus 60 dB. And as you can see, there were some little changes. I had these to turn off as well. And as you can see, there are small adjustments at that point. Let's see it again. Now, if I turn the noise gate on and I stay in complete silence, as you can see, the gate affected that. So the closed threshold, so anytime I go below 32 dB, it will just shut the audio off. And as soon as it detects that I've gone above minus 26 dB, it will open up again and start recording. I don't use a noise gate personally. I find that it sounds very artificial when done software-wise. If I want to reduce sound, I'll use the noise suppression here, which only has a suppression level, and I'll decide that I don't want to hear anything under 30 dB, but the mic, there's no gate that's stopping the mic from being active. The mic is always active, but the software is just filtering out anything under 30 dB. Let's check the result. So as you can see, it's pretty much the same, but you could see the difference, and we will see now, if we look at the meter, you can see how smooth the increase is. So if I'm silenced and I'll speak, let's do that. And you can see the gain is very, very natural the way it goes up. If I do it just with the gate and I'll go silent again, you'll see how rough and sudden the increase is. And you see, it just goes up. So noise suppression, if you don't need a gate, noise suppression is a more natural way to do it. Hardware noise gates will, of course, work better. I don't have a hardware noise gate here, so it's a bit difficult for me to actually give you evidence of that, but software is limited as far as this goes, at least. But it gives us a good option to be able to actually improve on our audio. As I said, please have a play around with these settings. There is no correct way to set them up. Everyone has different voices, so you have to tune for your own voice. I suggest you have a play around with it. If you have any issues, please leave a comment. I'll do my best to help. But this has been a basic overview of the audio filters. In the next video, we'll start getting into the settings menu and exploring what possibilities we have there. If you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Leave any comments or queries you may have in the comment section and check out the links in the description. See you in the next one.